fans of high-quality entertainment. So my buddy Glenn Kellaway from the basement just recently did his, I think it was top 12 British or UK bands. And I was very disappointed in his list, just to be honest. The Beatles at number 4. What's wrong with Glenn these days? Maybe he's going through menopause or something. I don't know. But this is my, I think every year it changes a little bit. There's some bands that you hadn't heard all of their, or, more of their material, like from the 60s. And that's happened to me for at least 2 or 3 bands in the last couple of years. So there's some bands that have kind of dropped from my list, and there's bands that are on my list. So as you can see, these are some of the bands that did not make my list, even though I do love some of them. I love Procol Harum. They would have been, like if I had a top 15, they'd be in the list. Same with Pink Floyd. I love the band Wire, but I only really know their first 3 albums, which I have and I absolutely love. Humble Pie, I love their early albums. Deep Purple, I always have respected. I love their early period. I didn't really follow them much after the 70s, but, I know they're still putting out some good albums. Jethro Tull, I've liked some of their albums through the years, but they've just never been, one of my go-to bands. Uriah Heep, I love early Uriah Heep. The Small Faces, I love that band. XTC, I love a lot of XTC's music. Not a fan of Oasis. Not that I don't like them, it's just that I'm not a big fan. And Blur, I never really listened to much. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I like their song Lucky Man, and I did kind of enjoy Brain Salad Surgery back in the day. But other than that, I'm not a fan of them. But I am a fan of these top 12 British bands, and I've ranked them in order. So here we go. At number 12, and like I said, I think if I did this even a year ago, this band wouldn't have been on the list. Electric Light Orchestra. I've said more than once, I feel Jeff Lynne is one of those musical geniuses, just so talented. But the whole band, from the early 70s when they were a real band instead of Jeff Lynne's ELO, and they put out so many great albums. My favorite is El Dorado and ELO 2. And yeah, they were pretty consistent for many, many years for putting out great albums. But they are at number 12. Number 11 is... That's right, The Clash. Yeah, I have all of their albums except for Cut the Crap, which I have no interest in ever buying. But I've got their big box set there and right there. And luckily, Cut the Crap isn't included. But my favorite album of theirs is the 3 LP disc Sandinista. But I love everything they did as, the 4 members. So they are number 11. Number 10. And this band would have been higher in previous years. The Who. I love The Who. What was that? I love The Who. Although I don't love everything they did. Well, I loved most of what they did with Keith Moon. And then when Keith Moon passed away, I just had no interest in further albums. But I love a lot of their albums. albums. And Who's Next is one of the greatest albums ever. And then, of course, there's Tommy and The Who Live at Leeds and The Who Sell Out and Quadrophenia. Just so many great singles, too. So that is The Who at number 10. They weren't a bad live band either. So, yeah. So this next band was pretty close with, The Who, and I had to kind of decide how to rank them. But number 9 is The Kinks. Yeah, I'd say the last 2 years I've started buying their early, their 60s albums like Arthur. I hadn't heard all of some of their early albums. And I love their 60s singles and some of their early 70s albums also. Just so many great, great songs. So the Kinks are at number 9. My favorite is probably, my favorite now is Arthur. Although before I really heard all of Arthur, it was Lola versus Power Man and The Money Go Round Part 1. All right. Number 8, another band that would not have made my list like 3 years ago or so. The Moody Blues. Look at those hairdos. I've got their first, that 7 run of classic albums. I have all of those. And I want to get more of their later albums too. But they were just very, very consistent in the 60s and early 70s. And just one of the most talented band, for having each band member being so talented. Great songwriting from all of them and vocals and everything. So the Moody Blues at number 8. Number 7. Genesis. I've always loved early Genesis, and I do like some of the Phil Collins era, especially, some songs. But it's the early years of Genesis that I really love, and, the single disc Genesis Live is one of my all-time favorite live albums. And then there's, of course, Foxtrot and Selling England by the Pound, and just what a talent. Once again, all of them are very talented musicians. Phil Collins, such a fantastic drummer, and not a shabby vocalist either. Number 6. Black Sabbath. And once again, it's just the Ozzy years. And I even love, their 2 last albums with Ozzy, before 13, with Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. I think those 2 albums are underrated. So I love that great run of the first 8 Black Sabbath albums. And one of the pioneers, of course, of heavy metal or hard rock or whatever you want to call it. Number 5. Once again, one of the most, for band members that are talented, one of the most talented bands, Queen. I prefer early Queen, although I love Innuendo, the last real album with Freddie Mercury. And I was just listening to the remix of the first Queen album on Spotify, and it sounds really good. So I'm definitely going to be getting that at some point. I think my favorite album besides the debut, like I said, I love the early albums, but I also love jazz, which I feel is very underrated. And they were a great live band too, of course. Number 4, which would be a lot of people's, number 1 or number 2. Led Zeppelin, yeah. What can you say about Led Zeppelin? One of the greats. There's some albums I prefer more than others. I love Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 and 3. Their 4th album. Not so much Houses of the Holy, but Physical Graffiti would be in my top 10 albums of all time. And my second favorite double album of all time. And yeah, so they are at number 4. So number 2 and number 3, I was kind of changing them, and I finally decided that this will be number 3. Yes, I have it on the side where I did my list, and it was the other band that's at number 2, so I wasn't sure. But I'm glad I changed it because I am happy with my number 2 choice. But number 3 is Yes. The John Anderson years I absolutely love. There's a couple of stinker albums like Union and Big Generator, but some of their later albums like Magnification and Key Studio, I love as much as their earlier albums. And their first 2 albums, I feel, are also very underrated. So, yeah, they are number 3. Number 2. Yeah, it's got to be the Rolling Stones. I wouldn't say, I've got quite a few Rolling Stones albums. I don't play them that often, but I've heard the albums through the years enough. But, all of the 60s songs, so many great songs like Ruby Tuesday and Satisfaction and Play with Fire and all of their great albums from the later 60s and the early 70s. Just so many. I don't love, for their whole career, I'm not crazy about everything. But still, they've got like so many great songs and albums that they are number 2. But no one beats. I was wondering if it was some other band. I was scared for a second. It's the Beatles at number 1. I know it's a big surprise. Yeah, they will always be my all-time favorite band of eternity. And I feel that they're the only band that's had a perfect career, with their albums and everything. There's not one there's not one song of theirs that I dislike. I even really enjoy Revolution 9. And, so the Beatles are always going to be number 1. And so that's my top 12 UK bands. I would love your thoughts in the comment section below. And let me know, of course you're going to say, where's this band? Where's that band? Well, they're not on my list. Make your own list. But let me know, what are some of your favorite bands, UK bands? Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.